Hello comparison test viewers and welcome back to another All Cars Everyday video. I'm standing with the 2020 Chevrolet Blazer, which was brand new for the 2019 model year. So it's fully equipped to take on the likes of the Honda Passport and Jeep Grand Cherokee, which are its primary competitors. This is the 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and even though it's sort of an older model, it's still worth being in this comparison test as it's one of the Blazer's primary competitors. This is the 2020 Honda Passport, which was a brand new model in the 2019 model year. I'm comparing these SUVs on a scale from 1 to 5 in 7 different categories for a possible total of 35 points per SUV at the end of the video. Furthermore, I'm comparing them at the $40,000 price point, which means I'm comparing the touring trim of the Passport as well as the limited version of the Grand Cherokee and the 3LT V6 all-wheel drive version of the Blazer. With that out of the way, let's look at our first category, which is value. The 2020 Chevy Blazer 3LT V6 all-wheel drive begins life at $41,345. On the outside of the SUV, there are 18-inch bright aluminum wheels, and both exterior mirrors are heated and dim automatically. At the rear, there is also a programmable power liftgate. Lights on the Blazer include LED taillights and daytime running lights, as well as high-intensity discharge headlights. Getting into or out of the Chevy is easy with its keyless open and remote start system on its key fob. Speaking of the inside, it's decked out in leather like the other vehicles in this test, and the driver's seat is 8-way power adjustable, but is missing a memory function like you'll find in the other two cars. The passenger gets 6 ways of power adjustment, and both front seats are also heated. For technology in the Blazer, Chevy outfitted the dashboard with an 8-inch touchscreen that houses Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Bluetooth, and Sirius Xm on a subscription. The Bluetooth can also be controlled by the voice recognition system that's accessed through the steering wheel mounted controls. Ultimately, all audio inputs will be played through the Blazer's 6-speaker audio system. In the gauge cluster sits another screen. This time it's 4.2 inches. It displays key information to the driver like the odometer, fuel economy, trip readings, and more. Like most other instrument cluster screens, it's reconfigurable to display what the driver wants. Convenience features in the Blazer are adequate, with a 4G LTE Wi-Fi hotspot connection, dual zone automatic climate control, push button start, express windows all around, an auto dimming rearview mirror, and a universal home remote up top. The Blazer has Chevy Connected Access, which is an app for the owner's smart device that allows them to start, lock, unlock, and track vehicle location and diagnostics. Like other manufacturers' versions of this feature, it's on a subscription basis. The Blazer has 2 charge-only USB ports. One is a traditional USB-A and one is a USB-C. It also has 2 data USBs that mimic the types of the charge-onlys. I'm noticing a pattern with GM vehicles not quite delivering on the value front as much as other manufacturers are able to. It hits the main areas, but as you're going to see soon, the other SUVs offer more on both the outside and inside. All 3 models are within a mere $600 of each other, so it's clear that the Blazer is missing a few things standard. It's getting a 3.5 out of 5 for value. On to the Jeep. The 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4x4 has an MSRP of $41,855. Outside, it's got halogen quad headlights, LED taillights, and fog lights, as well as DRLs. The mirrors are both heated and auto-dimming, and they have reverse gear tilt down at this trim level. The tailgate is, of course, powered as well, and there are roof rails for ease of hauling. The smart key system on the Grand Cherokee also has remote start on the fob. Finally, the Grand Cherokee rides on 18-inch gray aluminum wheels, the same size as the Blazer. The inside is full of leather, with 8-way powered front seats, including 4 ways of lumbar adjustment. Both of these seats are heated as well, and the driver's seat gets a 2-position memory function. Technology in the Grand Cherokee starts with the voice-activated navigation on the 8.4-inch screen in the center console, and ends with the 7-inch LCD screen in the gauge cluster. On the 8.4-inch screen, there is Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Bluetooth, and Sirius XM. All of this music playing ability is played through a 6-speaker audio system like the Blazer. Let's turn back to that 7-inch screen behind the wheel. It has basic vehicle features like outside temperature, tire pressures, and more, but it can also display audio and phone functions for the driver to see without having to look all the way to the other screen in the dashboard. It's quite a bit better than the standard 4.2-inch screen in the Blazer and many other cars today. There's an app called Sirius Xm Guardian that allows owners to start, lock, unlock, and track vehicle functions from their phone. Convenience features here include a sunroof, dual zone automatic climate control, a universal garage door opener, and express windows up front. Places to plug in inside include 1 AC outlet and 3 12-volt outlets. There's also an auto-dimming rearview mirror and a built-in Wi-Fi hotspot. If you noticed, in comparison to the Chevy, the Jeep has more LED exterior lighting, a memory function for the driver, navigation, a more advanced gauge cluster, and a sunroof, just to name a few features. It's getting a 4 out of 5 for the value segment. Next is the Passport. The 2020 Honda Passport Touring all-wheel drive is $41,280. LED brake lights, fog lights, DRLs, and headlights are standard on this trim, function, as is the hands-free power liftgate and programmable remote entry. The Passport also has smart entry with walk-away auto lock, where the driver can walk away from the car and it will lock when the driver leaves a certain radius from the vehicle. The side mirrors are heated with reverse gear tilt down, and the Passport rides on massive 20-inch wheels. Inside, the seats are all leather and the first 2 rows are heated. Also, the driver's seat is power adjustable 10 ways and the passenger gets 4 ways of power adjustment. The driver is also treated to a memory function for the seat and exterior mirror positions. Rear seat passengers are protected from the sun with shades for each of the windows in case things get a little too bright back there. Let's move on to the technology in the Honda, which revolves around an 8-inch touchscreen that comes with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Bluetooth, Sirius XM, Wi-Fi, and an in-car PA system. Voice-activated navigation is standard on the Passport in this touring trim. Behind the steering wheel sits a gauge cluster with 2 analog gauges flanking another LCD screen. This one can show many features, including but not limited to torque distribution, drive mode, audio controls, and what apps are shown on the screen in the center console. The audio system in the touring trim is a 540-watt unit with 10 speakers including a subwoofer. Though I am no expert audiophile, I was still impressed by this system, especially compared to the other two. Convenience features include push button and remote start, a sunroof, tri-zone automatic climate control, and an auto-dimming rearview mirror. Standard on the Passport is Honda Link, which is like Chevy Connected Access and Sirius Xm Guardian for owner smartphones. Places to plug in are good in the Passport too, with a 115-volt power outlet, 3 USB ports, and 3 traditional 12-volt outlets. Finally, the Passport also has cabin control where rear seat passengers can send navigation directions, music suggestions, and more from their smartphone. The Honda adds even more to what the Grand Cherokee had, all for the cheapest price and test. It had the 20-inch wheels, the best audio system, and it was the only one with a tri-zone automatic climate control system. It's winning this segment with a 4.7 for value. In this category, I look at the passive IIHS crash test ratings and the standard active safety equipment that comes with each vehicle. The Blazer has lane change alert with side blind zone assist, rear cross traffic alert, rear park assistance, and a teen driver setting that limits speed, audio volume, and reports back to parents on how the teen handled the SUV while they were driving. The Blazer was rated good in the tests that the IIHS has conducted of it so far, but there are also a lot more areas to be tested. It's getting a 3.6 for safety, as I'd like to see more tech to help out drivers. There are definitely vehicles that offer more active safety tech standard, as you're about to see with the Honda. I've noticed that Fiat Chrysler cars save most active safety features for an options package, and the Grand Cherokee is no exception. It was, again, missing some key active safety technology, but it did have blind spot warning with cross traffic detection and parking sensors. It got good everywhere except the overlap test, a range of poor to acceptable for headlights, and marginal for the ease of use for the child seat anchors. It's getting a 3.4 for safety. The Passport has a collision mitigation braking system, road departure mitigation, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring with cross traffic alert, automatic high beams, adaptive cruise control, and lane keeping assist. As you can tell, this is toward the top of the class. Not only that, but the Passport is a top safety pick according to the IIHS and is rated good in every segment they test except headlights, passenger overlap, and the ease of use for the child seat anchors. All of these segments were downgraded only to acceptable, but the headlights had a range from poor to acceptable. It's getting a 4.6 for safety, as it blows out the other two in both parts of this category. I'm comparing the Blazer with the 3.6-liter V6 and all-wheel drive to try and align it with the other two SUVs, as a turbo 4-cylinder is standard. It makes 308 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. It's based on a front-wheel drive platform, so unless asked otherwise, the Blazer powers only the front wheels. It's got automatic stop-start technology where the engine shuts down at complete stops to save fuel, and then seamlessly starts up again when the driver lets off the brake. The V6 all-wheel drive Blazer can get to 60 miles per hour from a standstill in 6.1 seconds. It's quickest and most powerful in test, plus it ties the Honda for the most forward gears. It gets a 4 out of 5. The Grand Cherokee has Chrysler's venerable, if aged, 3.6-liter V6. This engine has done duty in an enormous variety of models over the course of many years, so it's a familiar starting point in the FCA lineup. It makes 295 horsepower and 260 pound-feet, all of which goes through an 8-speed automatic, driving all 4 wheels. However, the Jeep is considered a 4x4 and the system is more advanced. It's called Quadra-Track 2 and it has hill descent control and the ability to send all available power to the rear wheels. It's got lockable 4-wheel drive and low modes, something the other two in this test do not offer. The Grand Cherokee is slowest in test, however, at 7.3 seconds to 60. Though it's down on power and acceleration, true 4-wheel drive beats all-wheel drive any day. It's getting a 4.5. The Passport uses Honda's classic 3.5-liter V6. In this application, it makes 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. Though an old engine, the new 9-speed automatic makes sure to keep the mill in its prime power band. It's also been updated with idle stop, which is the same feature that the other two have. The all-wheel drive system in the Passport is a $1,900 option, which I've already added to the base price. It's a part-time all-wheel drive system that only switches on when the computer detects it's necessary, because it's not a lockable four-wheel drive system like the Jeep. It's designed more for light snow, like most all-wheel drive systems are. However, it does have drive modes for sand, snow, and mud. In total, the Passport has a 0 to 60 time of 6.2 seconds. It's getting a 4 like the Chevy. Now let's see how much gas those powertrains suck down. The V6 all-wheel drive Blazer and Grand Cherokee are both rated at 18 miles per gallon in the city and 25 on the highway, for a combined 21. The Passport manages the same combined 21, but gets a rating of 19 in the city and 24 on the highway. That's going to be a 4.3 all around. I get this statistic from Consumer Reports, which uses historical data to interpret new car reliability. They rate each car on a scale from much worse than average to much better than average, with average of course falling in the middle. The Honda is rated average, and the Grand Cherokee and Blazer struggle a little here with worse than average. I assign a half point to each step up or down in those ratings, which means the Passport gets a 4 and the other two get a 3.5. This category wraps up the objective features and specs of each car, including towing and storage capability. The Blazer can tow a maximum of 4,500 pounds in this trim and store a maximum of 64.2 cubic feet of space behind the first row. That shrinks to 30.5 when the rear rows are in place. Passengers in the Chevy are afforded 107.8 cubic feet of space. Ground clearance is 7.4 inches and the payload rating totals 2,219 pounds. The Jeep tows a much higher maximum of 7,200 pounds, but the payload rating is less at 1,380. Behind the second row, there are 36.3 cubes, which expands to 68.3 with the seats down. Space for passengers is 105 cubic feet. Ground clearance is where the Jeep shines again, with 8.6 inches. The Honda tows a maximum of 5,000 pounds, and payload is unrated, which is probably a hint not to take on too much more beyond normal use. It's the biggest inside, with 77.7 cubic feet behind the first row and 41.2 behind the second. Passengers get 115.9 cubic feet of space as well, and it genuinely feels bigger inside. Ground clearance is more in line with the Blazer at 7.5 inches. The Jeep dominates this category, with the second most space inside and the best tow and ground clearance ratings. It's getting a 4.5 compared to the Blazer's 3.5 and the Honda's 4. This is the last objective category, but if you want, stick around to see a light design analysis. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but at the same time, styling is a key factor in a lot of consumers' minds. The Blazer is my favorite exterior of the three, and it's even been dubbed the Camaro of SUVs by the media, which I'm sure refers much more to the styling than outright performance. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I typically don't love super thin headlights, but the Blazer looks phenomenal. It looks mean, aggressive, and modern, which I like. It also has the floating roof concept that is rising in popularity, as the A-pillars are blacked out in every trim, regardless of the vehicle color. The side profile reminds me too much of the milquetoast Equinox, however. The aggressive comes back with the rear of the vehicle, and in this design I like the interruption of the C-pillar with the black bar because it maintains the consistency of what the A-pillars set forth. This part also pinches the rear upward and toward the roof in a single swooping motion. The taillights are well thought out and sort of evoke the C8 Corvette in a way. If style's your thing, make sure you check out the RS and Premier Blazer models, as the other trims look a little bit more plebeian. If you can't tell though, I'm excited about the design of the Blazer. The Jeep has aged like a fine wine, as it has pretty much looked the same for going on 10 years, which can't be said about most other models that old. That said, it is due for a big update. It's sedate and mature, which surely can't be said about the Blazer. Ironically, the Passport looks the most rugged outside, though it can't nearly match the Jeep's capability. It's got lots of black body cladding on the wheel wells and grille, which is a huge factor in why the vehicle gives off that safari look. I do think the wheelbase better fits its platform mate the Pilot, but the Passport doesn't look bad. The interiors paint much the same picture, with the Blazers coming out ahead in my opinion. It's car-like, and I think the round vents work very well in a car that is otherwise very angular. It feels far more upscale than most other 2020 GM interiors I've seen. The Grand Cherokee is showing its age much more inside, with a blocky screen and very generic dashboard lines. It's too conservative. The Passport uses the parts bin Honda interior, which is an alright design that feels solid in practice, but also seems like it'll be dated in the quickest amount of time. If you've seen my Pilot versus Passport video, you know that I like the look of the button gear selectors, but the functionality of these units can be called into question. Overall, the Blazer's getting a 4.8 for styling, the Jeep will get a 4.3, and the Passport will get a 4.1. Here are the final scores for each SUV. The Passport takes the cake with an early lead right out of the box for value and safety. That said, these SUVs are supposed to promise at least a modicum of off-roading prowess that the regular mall cruiser can't, and I think the only one here that delivers on that is the Jeep. The other two, especially the Passport, look the part but don't deliver. Also, if you've seen my other comparison with the Grand Cherokee against the 4Runner, Durango, and Explorer, you'll notice it did much better in this comparison. Just like I thought, the value proposition of the Grand Cherokee is only good in the lower and mid trim levels. Anything past the limited trim, you're paying more money for barely any additional substance. The The surprise here to me was the Blazer. Chevy almost never wins value, but I was hoping it would catch up in safety, fuel economy, or at least be rated average reliability. At least it looks amazing though. If you enjoyed watching, please feel free to leave a like. Also, go check out my community tab to vote on what comparison tests you want to see in the future. Otherwise, thanks for watching.